different corruption stances in Uganda and the discrepancies in asset ownership among the officials. So this has been put up by the IGG, and it is a mandatory process that was declared by Aisha Naluze Batala. She launched this and saying so the major purpose of this, I'll say it is to fight corruption, to prevent enrichment, and also to manage conflicts of interest, as well as ensure integrity within public office. Then with the timeline, they've given them that this exercise is supposed to take place between the 1st of April and the 30th of April. So they've given the timeline is just a 1 month timeline, where we have all these government officials having been able by 30th of April, all government officials and employees as well as servants, that whole criteria, they would have been able to declare all their assets, all their income and liabilities. And with liabilities, these are liabilities, we all know, I believe we all do know what our liabilities do mean. This is what things they are responsible for. So this is all they have to, this is the timeline. They were just given a period of 1 month, and it is a mandatory process. So there are consequences in case these particular employees fail to reach these agreements or read these requisitions that were put up by the IGG of Uganda. So it is the scope, like I said, it is mandatory for all public servants, including ministers, members of parliament, local government leaders, and officials that work in public institutions. So that is the range of people that this mandatory declaration is going to carry. So the method of this kind of process, where it happens, it's conducted online through the Inspectorate of Government online. So it's an online declaration. It's done online majorly through the Inspectorate of Government. So it is an online declaration system done by the IGODS. So it happens all the time, just like I said, once in 2 years. And the legal basis of this the exercise is mandated by the Leadership Code Act that's with the rules that do govern Uganda. So the key aspects that have been highlighted by the officials, the concerns show a bit of a non-compliance with the previous mandatory exercise that has been done with this declaration of assets. There has been a bit of a non-compliance, despite over 90% compliance rate previously. Authorities noted that over 3,000 public officials failed to declare their assets in the previous cycle. So there is a bit of a non-compliance that has been happening with different officials, and we know when this happens, that means there is a bit of a corruptness going on in there, and assets that they do not want to come to light, that they are owned by these particular individuals. And also they want of sanctions. The IGG want of strict action against those who submit false declaration to fail to comply. She said that those are different particular employees or public servants. Those who will fail to comply will be able to face cases potentially leading to prosecution by the Leadership Code Tribunal. So these are some of the the results or the aspects that are attributed with this kind of a mandatory declaration of assets that's done twice, that's done once in 2 years by these public employees. And so the major focus is on integrity. The Minister of Public Service, Wilson Muruli Mukasa, also emphasized that wealth declaration is a legal duty that protects public funds, recommending that compliance should be required for a public job, majorly for the applications. So for all those different public servants, for all those different government employees, the teachers, the doctors, the people that work in public institutions, the ministers, and local government heads, all the different people that are paid, that are on a government payroll, have to have done this process, or have to have declared their kind of assets, liabilities, as well as income by 30th of April. This process was declared yesterday. It was declared, and it started yesterday on the 1st of April. So it is majorly an online process. So this may be a bit of we may offer a bit of difficulty majorly to the employees that are working in rural areas because of the online bit of it. But we are letting all of you know that you can always seek help, from your local government heads, because this process is mandatory for all the different government workers. So for all the teachers that are out there, you have to have filled in this mandatory declaration of assets. You must have declared all your assets by 30th of April this year, 2026. This was issued by the IGG of Uganda, that is Aisha Naluze Batala. That is coming from Uganda. But continuing with more coming from Uganda, we've seen that the Uganda's Vocational and Technical Assessment Board, that's the UVTAB, has been able to also declare the results of November and December 2025 intake. They were able to declare the results, and according to these results, we have over a 90% rate of pupils of students that have passed these exams. These exams are majorly to assess. They have a variety of programs, and they majorly assess in training and skilling of technical skills. Majorly are skills that do require one to actually actively be taking part. It's not majorly about like we've seen in education systems, in high school, in universities, where it's more of a reading theory. With this assessment board deals majorly with training programs and skilling of different individuals. So according to the results that have been issued, they were issued yesterday on 1st April. According to these results, there is a high rate of people that have been able to make it out with good results, and I'll be mentioning there is over 27,000 individuals or candidates that registered for this series, the series of November, December 2025. So we have over 27,000 individuals, and the release date was yesterday, Tuesday, 1st of April. At 10 a.m. So according to the performance, there is a 95% pass rate, which that was achieved among the different candidates. So 95% is really doing well for our Ugandan counterparts. So then the candidate statistics, we had 27,460 candidates sit for these examinations in November together with December. At the end of last year, we had over 27,460 candidates who registered for this assessment, with 26,313 turning that is turning up. So over the 27,460 candidates that registered, we had 26,312 that were actually able to sit for these examinations. That means there is a very small percentage of individuals that were not able to actually fill in or do the examinations that had already registered for them. And then according to these numbers, the ones that were able to actually sit for the examinations, we have 10,717 females as well as 15,595 males. So the number of males compared, or the ratio of males compared to females that did these examinations is a bit more compared to that of the ratio is it's more on the side of males compared to that of females. And then for the coverage, we have other assessments were conducted across 543 accredited centers. So there were 543 centers, just like we have UNEP centers. We have UNEP centers where these students have or happen to carry out these examinations in different schools. For this, we had over 543 across the whole country. And then the process, the results were released. The results were released by the board and the officials. They highlighted a key performance in metrics, just like I said. This kind of the Uganda Vocational and Technical Assessment Board covers a wide range of programs, and these programs we have technology, there is business, there is agriculture. So these are all together, all these together. So most of the results, the highest performance were in metrics, mostly in technology. So That's what we have from Uganda. We've seen there is the youth tab. This board, or this board majorly deals in skilling activities, in training different candidates, different Ugandans, with activities that can actually able them to be their own job employers, not to be job seekers. So we have over 26,000 that we're actually able to do these examinations, and we have a 95% pass rate. That means most of them actually were able to make it out with very good grades, and we are yet to see what comes of these new minds, these new creative minds that have been able to actually pass these examinations. The Uganda Vocational Technical Assessment Board does happen. It has different series that do happen yearly. So this was the 2024. This was the intake for for the end of last year, and these are the results that they were able to actually come up with. Today in our health tips, our main focus on health today is going to be the male infertility. This is a condition that's affecting millions worldwide, and according to reports, almost 1 in every 6 couples worldwide faces this problem of male infertility. That is according to the reports by the World Health Organization. So we're going to talk about what causes male infertility, what are the signs and symptoms, and how can you actually treat it. So first of all, I would like to note that male infertility is very much treatable. You can actually, you can do away with it. And then there are things you can do as well to prevent yourself from getting, this kind of condition. So we're going to start with what are the causes of male infertility. So the causes of male infertility, the major of them include varicocele. Varicocele is when the dilated veins around the testicle rise because of a temperature. So this makes it the most common treatable cause. And then we have sperm production issues. This is when one has a low sperm count. So this also low sperm count or poor motility also is one of the causes of male infertility in male. So there is also blockages, for example, previous surgeries, infections, or developmental issues that can block the reproductive tract. So all those. And then there is hormones. When one has low testosterone, we all know testosterone is the hormone that's responsible for this. So when a particular individual has low testosterone, that means they have low production of sperms. So that also is one of the causes, or it attributes to the causes of male infertility. But just like I said, the major one, the most treatable one is the first one that I mentioned, which is a varicocele, where the dilated veins around the testicle, right, they rise because of a temperature. So temperature is actually not very much good, and according to some symptoms or some things that actually can be done to prevent this. There are some lifestyle things people do, especially males, that are actually harmful to the male reproductive system, but they do not know things like the sauna, because of extensive exposure to heat is very it affects the male reproductive system negatively. So away from the hormones, there is also, I'm still talking about the causes. I had drifted away to to some of the lifestyle things people do that actually affect or hinder the reproductive system of the the male reproductive system. But away from other causes, we're still on the causes. Apart from hormones, the low testosterone count, the testosterone, just like I said, it's a hormone that's responsible for all this. When you have low testosterone, of course your production rate will be very low. So lifestyle and environmental factors, that is to smoking, excessive alcohol, illegal drug use, obesity, and exposure to toxins as well as heat can reduce one's sperm quality. That of course reflects to what I was talking about, the excessive use of sauna or things like that. So this lifestyle, overexposure to heat, drug use, obesity, all these, alcohol, smoking, all these can lower the quality of one's sperms, or can lower the quality of one's sperms. So there is also ejaculation disorders, the erectile dysfunction, or retrograde ejaculation, where semen enters the bladder instead. So those are some of the causes of male infertility. So away from other causes, we are going to talk about other symptoms of male infertility. How does one tell that I am actually infertile? or I'm facing this kind of condition. So first of all, the infertility is often an underlying symptom-free condition, but potential indicators, it's not always obvious that you actually have it. You cannot always tell. The symptoms are not that obvious, but there are some key indicators where one can tell that they are infertile. So some of this, there is inability to conceive after 6 to 12 months of trying, and then there is problems with sexual function, for example, low desire. Then there is difficulty with erections, and then there is a pain, a swelling, or a lump in the testicle area. Those are some of the symptoms, together with when you have a smaller than the normal or shrunken testicles. Also, that could be a sign, or it's a symptom that that it could be a symptom. It's a likely symptom of male infertility. And then there is a low semen volume or decreased ejaculation. So all those are some of the symptoms of male infertility. But then we do have, just like I said, it is very much treatable. So I'm going to talk about other different treatment options for male infertility. And with these treatment options, treatment is often tailored. It's given according to your cause, the cause that you actually, because just like I mentioned, the causes when I started with the causes, that varicocele, low testosterone hormone, all those different causes. So one is treated according to the cause that they have been able to administer. So first of all, there is a lifestyle modifications. There is a story for those that get them because of lifestyle exposure to a lot of heat, smoking, alcohol use. So this is when you come in and you have to modify your lifestyle. So one stop smoking, you reduce alcohol consumption, eating healthy, and avoiding hot baths or saunas to improve sperm count. Since smoking, alcohol, obesity, exposure to a lot of heat does reduce the quality of one's sperms. So then there is a surgery. Just like I said, for varicocelectomy, this surgery is called a varicocelectomy. It's done to repair enlarged veins, which is the most common. Just like I said, a varicocele is the most common. You have dilated veins. So this kind of surgery is done to help and repair these kinds of enlarged veins, or it's a procedure to remove a blockage. And then there is medications. Hormone therapies are given to treat imbalances, or medicines to address erectile dysfunction. And then there is also assisted reproductive technology. This is a sperm retrieval, and it's combined with vitro fertilization. So those are some of the treatments or the cures that can actually help one to do well with male infertility. So then those are some, just like I said, the different treatments are aligning with the different causes. There is that one where there is a blockage, or where the sperms go to the bladder instead. So all those different symptoms, those different causes are they're all treated, and the treatment is in alignment with what you have actually been able to face. So that is what we had for you today in our health tips. We are mainly, our health concern was mainly about the male reproductive system, male infertility, a problem that is facing over 50% of males worldwide, and 1 in every 6 couples, according to World Health Organization reports. It is a very common problem, and it actually can be treated. So you do not treat your husband in a certain way because they've not been able to. But majorly, I think I would actually say this out there before I actually head on to the next story of the day. Most of the times, men do not actually think of this as something, as a condition that could actually do happen to them. And most of the time it's skipped. People do not give it that much attention, just like it actually deserves to be given. And most of the times in marriages, when there is a failure to conceive or to have a child, the blame mostly goes to the woman. So it's actually a process. There is female infertility, but there is also male infertility. So it's not always the woman. So it is very highly advisable that you actually carry out checkups and to see to sieve and to actually be able to rule out what the problem could actually be. It's not always the woman that's a problem. So this is something that we do have majorly in our households in Uganda. But I believe that kind of tradition should be shifted or should drift away. Moving on from our health tips of today, we shall be moving into Senegal, where we have the president of Senegal, that is Bassirou Basiro Faye, he has passed on a controversial bill, and this bill has toughened the laws against LGBTQ. This is majorly about people that are about homosexuality. So this bill has it has been called controversial because of the results because of the reactions of the United Nations and different organizations, because of what other different organizations, even UN, what they have been able to say about his kind of bill. So Senegal's president Bassirou Diomaye Faye has signed a highly controversial new law that significantly toughens the nation's anti-LGBTQ stance. So with this bill was signed on 30th of March 2026, and it was passed on 31st of March. And it was, that's when it was officially put out to the public on the 31st of March 2026. So it doubles the maximum. What has majorly made it a toughened, why people are saying it has toughened, it's because he has doubled at the time these particular individuals are supposed to be in prison to a 10-year sentence. So people that are homosexuals in Senegal are liable to facing 10 years in prison, as well as paying fines. So this is attributed, there is a maximum sentence of 10 years, as well as fines that have to be paid in case you are caught, or in case you are a homosexual in Senegal. So Bassirou Faye does not play about homosexuals in his country. So the key details of this bill will start with the toughened penalties. In these toughened penalties, he said that same-sex relations, which they are referred to as they were referred to as an act against nature, according to this new bill, which most people are terming as a controversial one, because they say that it's an act against nature according to their penal code. So it includes some homosexuality, bisexuality, as well as transgender identities. So a person is going to the prison. The prison time has been drifted from 5 years in prison to 10 years in prison for an individual that is found to either be bisexual, transgender, or a homosexual. But that is what it is. So all these go against acts against nature, according to Senegal. And then there is also promotion. The law specifically criminalizes the promotion or support or funding of the LGBTQ activities. So individuals that are found of funding different homosexuals, groups of bisexuals, transgenders, any individual that's found to be funding such programs or such groups that have such individuals is also going to face these different consequences. So this kind of profession, one is going to face 7 years in prison in case you are found in support of the homosexuals, the LGBTQ, the homosexuals, the bisexuals, as well as transgender. You are going to face, you are liable to 7 years in prison. That is in Senegal. And also the increased fines for such offenses. The fines have been have increased to 2 million and 10 million francs. That is roughly $3,500. So that those fines have also been, they have also been increased in Senegal. So away from other fines that have been increased to, from roughly, they've been increased from, they were $3,500. They've now been increased to $17,600. Those are the fines. So it has been such a great. The difference is quite, it's quite alarming. That's why it has been able to raise a lot of concerns. They have not just made an increase by like 10%. No, they have almost doubled all these punishments. The fines, everything has actually has increased almost twice or thrice of the previous punishment. And then the law is seen as targeting different advocacy groups. That's why. So the law is perceived to target different advocacy groups, individuals that do support LGBTQ rights, and anyone that's deemed to be spreading acts against nature, according to the reports. So that is the target audience for this law. And then there are also restrictions on judicial discretion. The legislation limits the discretion of judges, prohibiting them from granting suspended sentences or reducing the punishment below the set minimum for those convicted. So it also for the judges or for the people that are supposed to deal with the law, they are not allowed, in case of this kind of crime appears to the courts of law, they are not allowed, the judges are not allowed to reduce the sentence extend grants, anything of that sort. It's not allowed. Everything has to work perfectly or accordingly to what other President Basiro Diomaye has actually been able to say or to declare. So what has made this bill controversial, because most people have perceived it as a controversial bill, and that's what it's being called. So everyone is saying the new president, Senegal's president, signed this new controversial bill. So what has made it a bit controversial is the global backlash. Human rights organization and the United Nations have heavily criticized this move, with UN chief Volker Turk also being very vocal about this, saying that it goes against the freedoms of human rights. It does not deal with freedoms of human rights. So different human rights organizations, the UN, even the UN chief himself, was able to show, his disapproval of this kind of bill that was passed, or that was declared on the 31st of March, just I think 1 day back. So most organizations are not happy with this kind of bill, and according to Volker Turk, he said that it is deeply worrying, and stating that it undermines fundamental freedoms and like dignity, privacy, and expression of all the different individuals that are supposed that feel free or feel like this is their line of life. So there is also increased persecution, and there is also a campaign promise fulfillment. During his campaign, he mentioned that he will work upon laws such as this. So the fact that the President Faye and his Prime Minister, they have been they presented this bill and had promised a stricter law during their 2024 campaign. So this also, it's dealing with them. So that is majorly what's coming from Senegal. We've seen this kind of bill that has, raised a lot of concerns. It has raised debates everywhere in different human organizations with the United Nations, but it goes down to what the country believes is supposed to be done. If there are individuals, according to the bill, they say this is against the acts of human nature, but according to the UN, they say it's going against freedoms, personal freedoms like privacy. But it was signed and it has already been put in action by the president in Senegal. That is President Bassirou Faye. So we are going to be going for a short commercial break, and we'll be returning with our sports segment.
Good morning to you, Rita. How are you today?
I'm doing great. The question is, how are you doing? Our viewers missed you yesterday. Yeah, as we started the March, it was 1st April.
Yes.
It's commonly known as April Fools. Has anyone ever fooled you, on that day?
Good luck enough, I wasn't fooled by anyone.
Yes.
And I think, however much I was down into the field yesterday, but I think even some of the news I would have given them yesterday, a few would have accepted that I was not lying to them.
Was it too good to be true?
Because all over the social media, most of the stories were fake. From morning to midday, they were fake. But you had to be conscious when perceiving those stories. So. But for now, I think we are now in working modes. Fool's Day is done now.
Finally done, yes. We're now back to our very serious
business.
Yeah, let's have our sports segment.
Okay, good morning, viewers. Sam Derek is my name. That is Rita Bakunzi, the host for New Day every Monday to Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. By exactly 8, Amores in with the sports update. And for now, let's start with the UEFA Champions League. On the side of women, yesterday we had 2 games, quarter-final. Remember, we are trying to see which teams will do qualify to semi-finals yesterday.